This morning at a committee meeting with Gilmore, and he was blown about the export figures, but unfortunately the export figures don't do an awful lot for an awful lot of the people who have to live their lives. And whether you're trying to run a small business, whether you're trying to hold down a job with extra tax and extra bills coming in all the time, or whether you have no job at all, and more indirect taxes coming all the time. Life is very unfair, and the export figures don't really do much for you. The whole notion of the household charge, there's no doubt about it, but when it was introduced first, €100, I mean, I can still remember Minister Hogan smiling on the far side of it all and saying, I bet you they're sorry it's not 5, because you won't be able to fucking argue with this. And that was the attitude. They said, people won't mind paying 100. But I mean, at this stage, the people are very well aware of the fact that they won't be paying 100 for very long, that they'll be paying 400 or 500 or more within 12 months. And if they get away with this, you're also going to be paying very seriously for your water. And there's a lot of indirect taxation already in this country without these taxes being placed upon you. And the notion, the forever argument and telling us that, this is the way it is in Europe. Well, I know how it is in Europe. And I know that if you lived in Europe, in most parts of Europe, you wouldn't mind paying a house charge, or you wouldn't mind paying for your water, because you get superb services in return. And I actually mentioned it, I think, on Service Radio yesterday morning, where in a small village that I happen to know in Italy, where they do pay a house tax and they do pay for water, but you want to see the services they get back. We don't have them. And if our government would like to have a house tax and water charges, they need to give us serious local government first and local services. And if people would see their money coming back to them, then they might be able to live with it. But at the moment, in this country, power is completely centralised. All the decisions are made in Dublin. Local government is completely underfunded and it's badly run, and it doesn't really have an effect in a positive way on your lives. So it's really not worth a damn to you. And if the government want to introduce local charges, then they have to introduce local services. Now, another huge problem, and it probably hasn't been emphasised enough from my point of view with regard to the house tax, is that anyone who has bought a house in Ireland in the last 15 years has paid their house tax. When you pay stamp duty, like anyone that would have bought a house, for example, supposing you bought a house for 200,000 10 years ago, you'd have paid a minimum, there was 6% on it at the time, on 200,000 figure. Right, so you paid 12,000, right? But you run it through your mortgage, which you pay every month, you pay every year. It's actually 12,000 becomes 25 over a 25-year mortgage. So in actual fact, on a 25-year mortgage, your stamp duty, which is a house tax, is 1,000 per year as part of your mortgage. Now, for this government to tell you that you need to pay a house tax because everyone in Europe pays one, isn't fair, because you're already paying one. And the Europeans, they have a good system, but they didn't have to pay all that stamp duty at the start when they bought their house. So it's not a level playing field. You can't compare the government. And I don't know, on yesterday morning, I actually read a piece from the Fine Gael policy document last January, 12 months ago. And they actually said, because Fianna Fáil were actually going to bring in the household charge, because the EU, IMF want them to bring it in, because they want more of these indirect taxes, which is what these are. But the Fine Gael said 12 months ago that this tax would not be fair, because the people are already crippled with debt, because the people have already paid more than enough in stamp duty and VAT on the purchase of their house. If you bought a house even forget this, apart from the stamp duty, if you buy a house in Ireland for 300,000, 160,000 of that actually makes its way to the government through not just stamp duty, not just VAT on the materials, VAT on the work, income tax. They actually get 160,000 out of the 300,000, and they are trying to tell you that you need now to start paying house tax. You couldn't make it up. It is completely unfair. And Fine Gael said only 12 months ago that this tax would be unfair because the people have already paid more than enough tax on any house that they may have. And they were right. And they have some neck to turn around and say now, oh yeah, now we need a house tax. And Enda Kenny says, well, it isn't. If you don't pay for local services, there'll be no water running through the tap. There'll be no one to do this and do that. Local services, local authorities in this country have been cost 173 million for 2012. The estimated, given that if people are dull enough to pay their household charge, they're going to collect 160 million. The local authorities are actually going to be short 13 if everybody in the country were to pay. Everybody. They'll actually be short 13 to run local government next year. So in actual fact, this money is not going towards local services. They're taking it from the local authorities first and saying, now you go and get it. That's not the same as telling them that any money you collect will actually improve local services, because they're taking it in the first place. So in actual fact, the truth of the matter is that your money is going to pay off bank debt. We had a meeting, the technical group were allowed a meeting with the Troika group this week, and it was very interesting. These people would like their money back, and they have recommended certain things to our government, and one of them is that, oh God, of course there should be a house tax, of course you should pay for your water, because everybody in Europe does. But that's not, things are not the same here. And aside from the fact that we've already paid our tax, there is, the present austerity measures have left so many people in a position where even if they wanted to pay, they can't pay. They can't afford to pay. There's only so much squeezing the government can do on the people. And meetings like this, and when the household charge meeting started first, the numbers were small. And Claire here has been the main organiser in Dublin especially, and the numbers were small first, and people were kind of saying, oh, I don't know, I mean, the Irish can be so reluctant to get involved and to raise their voice. Well, people in this country need to raise their voice. They need to have a say. Too long, you vote once every 5 years and you have your say. But that's not worth a damn. You voted last February, and the crowd that you voted in have behaved the same as the crowd were in before them. You need an active involvement on a continuous basis in how things are done, how your lives are organised, how your communities are organised, how society in general in Ireland is organised. You need to stand up and to become involved, become active citizens. We're not telling people to go on the streets and turn the cars over and set them on fire. We're telling people to speak up, get together, organise yourselves, and have your say. The people in power, Labour and Fine Gael are in power at the moment, and if you remember, during the election campaign, all the talk was, oh, we're going to have change, things are going to be different, we'll change things, we've had enough of Fianna Fáil. Well, they were right about the Fianna Fáil part, we had certainly had enough of them. But I mean, they have no